All right, welcome to Tech Simplified. What is it? It's April 30th, and today we're going to talk about reusing your tech. Just being aware that 90% of this stuff can be automated, and you should, because if you're not, you're wasting a tremendous amount of time. Most of us have a car these days where we can go in and press a button, and it'll move the seats so that if your significant other, if the other person driving the car is shorter or taller, that it'll move the seats and maybe adjust the mirrors and could adjust the steering wheel. And there's some adjustments that at the press of a button, everything changes. Not everything. Some basics change, and that way, when my wife gets in my car, she just goes ahead and presses her button, and then it adjusts the seats since she's not as tall as I am. So rather than manually adjusting it and trying to get it to the right place, it remembers it. Now, of course, when I get in the car, I press a different button and it goes back to my settings. I do not need to decide, gee, is this close? It readjusts the mirrors, it readjusts the seats, it makes some adjustments for me. And that just makes life simple when I get in the car. Now, our DAWs and our tools, both RX type processing and our DAWs, most of them support some sort of reuse. It's also why it kind of cracks me up. Some people promote these single-track DAWs as if they're simpler. The reality is a good multi-track DAW with a good template is definitely superior to a single-track DAW which doesn't have good templates, because the templates, you can have a whole set of them easily. And there is a difference between a template and just taking an old file and clearing it out and reusing it. Templates are special little animals that many people don't understand. They come from, first learned about templates in Word and Excel back in the day. We're going back 25 years or so. And if you learn to use a template in Word or in Excel or in Google Sheets or in Google Docs, you'll find that life is much, much, much simpler, and you definitely want to do it with your audio production as well. Okay, let me look at my little dashboards here. So, and if you're sitting on Facebook, hey, it's always helpful to go over there to YouTube. If you're on YouTube, be sure to join the Facebook group. There's a VO Tech Simplified site, and we have, I don't know, 3,000 people in that group, and you're welcome to ask questions there. So be sure to join us there. So lots of good things available to you. And I'll show you in a DAW that the better tools have multiple levels of details that you can store and recall quickly and easily. If I'm going to make pizza dough and I go to Trader Joe's and they have a pizza dough there, they've already measured out the ingredients. If I buy a cake mix, it already has everything already pre-measured for me. I like the cooking shows where there's a sous chef or somebody off camera, and they measure out all the ingredients, and then the pro celebrity chef, they just dump in little bowls of stuff, and it turns out great. And I always think, man, I could be a great cook if I'd have someone chop it and measure it and have all those details done, and I just put them all together. Now we know that the real chef had a hand, or at least was able to in advance say, this is what we want to do. And then he had people assisting, making his life easier. Well, we should have that with virtually everything we do. So different DAWs have different capabilities. What I'm going to show today, you can do in Studio One, you can do in Reaper, you can do in Audition, you can do in most of the major tools. And if your tool doesn't support it, then get one that does, would be my recommendation. And I think you'd be shocked how many places this occurs in one of the more advanced tools. But at the end of the day, it's about doing less each time and having more consistency each time. And as your knowledge grows, as your needs grow, you will develop a collection of things the same as I would if I'm cooking or driving or learning to do other tasks in life. I don't want to, if I'm playing tennis, you learn how to tie your shoes. Okay, no big deal. Now, if someone plays tennis all the time, they put something called an overgrip on their racket. And that's just, and they can change that out quickly and easily. And the longer they do it, the faster they get at it. But the point is that they can go out and you'll see tennis players, they have this bag. And the bag is preloaded with all the things they need. It has extra shoes and shoelaces and extra rackets and extra details that they need. So when they go out to play, they grab their bag and they go out the door. If I'm a survivalist, I have my go bag, and I have it all pre-packed, ready to go. So it should happen in your DAW. And I'll give you some examples. You may not be using the exact same tool that I'm using, but you can use these same principles in most things. And if your DAW doesn't support it, hey, get one that does. It's real helpful. And somebody should throw a comment in there if you're watching this live, just so that I know that you are seeing it, you are hearing it, that we did go live. Everything on my dashboard here implies that it's live, it's working right, everything's happening there. So it is helpful, though, if you throw in a comment in the chat so that I know that you're there, that you can hear me, that all the details are working right. Okay, I did change a bunch of settings this last week. And it's, oh, Crystal, great. All right, cool. Everything's live. Thanks, Will. Thanks, Crystal. Great. Really, really helpful, All of a sudden now I got, yeah, thanks. All right, Joe, you're up on Facebook. Thank you. Super helpful for you guys to do that. Greatly appreciated, okay? So here's the thing that happens. People have no idea how many levels there are. First thing, in a good DAW, you're going to have templates. Now, and what's the difference between a template and just taking a file and reusing it? Well, number one, if I'm going to do a voiceover or I'm going to do an audiobook, I have templates sitting here. I'll zoom in on those. And when I zoom in on them, I have one that's for audiobooks, one that's for voiceover, one that's 100% raw. Okay, so those are just set up in advance. I don't have to think about what are the minor differences that I might want to have between an audiobook, for example, and a voiceover, for example. And I'll just give you an idea. I mean, first, you don't have to do this exact same thing. But if I go ahead and I pull up my voiceover template, for example, one of the things that I know absolutely with a voiceover is that I may want it absolutely raw. That's cool, right? Let me adjust this screen here and adjust this here. And I may want it totally raw. And so, cool, I have the place where I'm going to put my audio or record my audio with a single key. I'm recording. You've seen all that before. But I also have a blank track sitting here where I could add music or sound effects, and I have it muted because not all voiceovers require music or sound effects. But my template has it sitting on there because I need it enough that in my case, I know 30-40% of my voiceovers are going to have something, or I'm going to offer an optional version to my clients that include that. So whatever you include, cool. You can have it set up in advance. Now, on the other hand, when I work on an audiobook, I don't want to say I never have music, but I almost never have music. Okay, so this is the audiobook one. And the audiobook one doesn't have music by default. Now, but when you have good tools that have good templates, you also have something where I actually have a music track that's hidden there. And that's simply because an audiobook by default will not have music. But if I was doing a children's story, they often do. So in other words, I have a hidden track that has that preset up. And if you hate the extra tracks, here's the cool thing about a template. Boy, I should make one of these up right now. I think I'll do this. If I were, this one was an audiobook template, and I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to just hide these two tracks, okay? So if I want to look like a single track DAW, then what I can do is take, and one, I'll probably change its color a little bit just so that I instantly know. Let me make it a different shade of blue here. So I'll do something that's pretty, there we go. That's more drastic. And then I'm going to do something called File, Save as Template, and then this is going to be my single track. I'm going to go here, single track example. And then it looks even simpler. I just have less, and I can give it a nice little icon, which, hey, the world's gone to icons. That makes it easy. And then I'm going to put a date. Since we're still in April 2024, we'll throw that in there. And single track example. And then what happens is now we have this really cool thing. Now, people don't always understand. Templates just seem like they're files that they cleared everything out of. And they're not. There's a difference. I'll show you what that little difference is now. So I'm going to close this. So what it means is I'm not going to save changes in that. But later, if I want to have a single track example, when you're ready to do it, you can go, there it is, right there. There's that one. I could have named it whatever I want, put it in the order, give it something. I I put a single space in there so it would sort to the top. I could give it an icon. But what's interesting with that is now single track, and if you have your tools set up right, then what happens is it just comes in and shows that single track. Now here's the difference between a template and just a file that I clear out. I talk about this, I see people get this mixed up all the time. I say, hey, open your template. They're like, what do you mean open your template? Well, go in and create something based on your template. Like I said, you can do this in Reaper and Audition, Studio One, and more. Pro Tools can do it. Almost all the more advanced DAWs do this. But a template is not the same as a file because, see, number one, when it comes in, it does not, there's no way to overwrite the template without using an explicit command. Where a normal save will not overwrite the template. A normal save as will not overwrite the template. It just doesn't work that way. I have to do an explicit command to save the template. So what it really does that people don't understand, you probably get it already. When I start with a template and well, let's just do it. Start with a template and I go in here and I pick one of these. After I give it a name or whatever and say okay, at that point, it takes and makes 100% clone of that existing file that's behind the scenes sitting there. And I now have a clone of that, which means then I could modify it from there the way I started and add tracks, delete tracks, change the processing, and none of it affects the template. The template stays in the background, and every time I use it, I get a brand new, fresh clone of that template. By the way, Google Sheets works the same way. Google Docs works the same way. Excel works the same way. If you have an Excel template, not an Excel file, and you open File New from the template, you are getting a complete clone of that document on your screen at that point. The original one is safe and protected, and somebody can't just make a mistake. I'm in such the habit to do Control-C or Command-C, depending on which PC and Mac, depending on what I'm on that day, that I save things all the time. And I do it way more than most people because mainly because I've had hard drives fail over the years. I've made my own mistakes more than the hard drives, more than the hardware's failed. And so I'm a nut about saving things. If you're just in one of the DAWs that only has files, it's really easy to overwrite something that you didn't intend to overwrite. So then you need to be also keeping your own backups of those things, which, you should be doing anyway. But still, you really have to be careful if you only have a DAW that doesn't allow for templates. So templates are a first level of reuse that you absolutely want in your recording tool. It makes things easy to have different ones set up in advance that work real well. I have a totally raw one. I just created that single track example if I want something that looks, super simple. And then I have my other ones which have variations both in the tracks, in their appearance, and in other details. All right, now let me show you a couple other things that most people don't really know. The more advanced DAWs also have the ability to have something called a track preset, because each track has its own attributes. And I'm not going to go through it because every product has different things, but I can load and save. I can load and reopen different presets for a track because there are a bunch of attributes that a track has, and those can be saved off and then brought into it. If I open a new file, an existing file, or I open from a template, get my clone, I then could also use a preset that I have already preset up. So if I'm doing a certain type of voiceover that needed maybe an old school radio, I could save that as a track preset. And then later I realize, ooh, I need that specific sound. I can just import that track preset. So that's another level. Then when we go into the effects, the good tools have additional places to store presets because we're talking about reuse today. For example, each one of these on my input, I have a couple things that are happening on my input. I have a high pass filter and what I call a safety limiter. I really should rename that. If I were one of the things this should be called safety limiter, because the reality is, while it's a limiter, it really should not kick in while I'm recording because that limiter is set at -1.17. I'll zoom in on that. I have that that is set up. Hold on, let me get the right one there. I'm gonna make sure this one right here. Boom, 1.17. I just want to make sure I don't clip, and a good listener will turn the volume down without clipping. So yeah, I want to do that and make it easy. But point being, I can have these two set up, and what happens is they allow me to store a chain, and I'm just going to call this input. Let me call it XX. I'm going to call it ZZ input demo. Okay, and let's change the date here, and let's go something. We'll call it May. Now it doesn't even have to be right. Okay. So the cool thing about this is this could be recalled and used, and I can take it right over here, and I can go into the Baarns group here and find that one. I think I called it that. What did I call it? What did I call it? You think I would know what I called it? Which group did I put it in? Oh, there it is, input demo. There it is. And you notice it just switched. Let me zoom in on that. It just switched that to safety limited. It matched what I already had. So what does that allow me to do? It allows me to reuse any set of tools that I have or effects on any track or any input. I could have used it over here on my track. So I have details that I can recall as groups of things, also known as a rack in Audition. You have the ability to have a set of effects. I'm going to learn to say that word soon. A set of effects, and you can recall them as a group. And then I don't have to remember. Once they're set up, they're right. Then I just want you to know that it even gets more granular than that. When the good tools have the ability, well, let me go. Let's pretend I wanted to use an EQ. Okay, so let me go find an EQ. I know what that happens to be called, room reverb. I'm going to add this on here. By the way, bonus, let me move this over here. If I'm doing something and someone says, oh, you sound really mechanical, very often it's because the context that they're using it in, they're not used to it being recorded in such a pristine location where we have no distractions in the background, where we don't sound like every room they've ever been in their life. And the reality is almost all rooms that people are in have a very slight reverb or an extensive. In a kitchen or a bathroom, we have lots of reverb, many kitchens, many bathrooms, tons of reverb. An office building, sitting outside of somebody's office, but still in an office complex, sitting in the lobby. There's echo and reverb that are occurring in those rooms all the time. So each one of the actual little utilities have a whole set of defaults or presets. And just like track presets, that means that instead of me figuring out here what all the details are to sound like I'm in a large club, let me move this over so you can see it on screen here without it being, see if I can get it over here. There we go. And I'm going to turn off this, I'm going to zoom it out. There's presets. Okay, I guess I should zoom in on that. All these presets allow me to go through and change, and it changes the reverb. Okay, now what it really did was, rather than me have to set all these knobs myself manually each time, it already has a set of presets. And I can go ahead and create my own by adjusting the knobs and making sure, doing whatever I need to do for that particular effect. I'm not trying to show that is a specific effect. But once I'm done, I'm allowed to store that preset with my own name and recall it later. And that's really a huge thing that you can do, because you actually could share these with other people if you want. But more importantly for yourself, you have some reuse. So I hope you can see we have multiple levels of reuse just in the DAW. I'm going to show you some more when we move to RX here in a second. But for a quick review, we have our templates at the very beginning, which have tracks and presets and different effects in them. So that's at this very top level where I pick what I'm going to do, an audio book here, and I might have chapter 01, and then when that's up, it has a couple tracks in it. I might have one track, I might have 3 tracks, whatever. And then within that, each of the tracks have their own inserts. There are track presets. There are presets here at the level of each track. There are presets. I mean, it's crazy. And then when we get into any individual tool, then there are also presets available within those tools. Okay, so hey, if you're recording music, male R&B, okay, I don't know who created that and why, but that's what they think that would be really good. I actually know who, but I'm just saying it was created by the developers of the program, and they have a bunch, and these are just examples. You can create your own, and you should. Because once you have this stuff figured out for what you're doing, then you can recall them without any muss or fuss, and it's all set up for you in advance. This is not something that I should have to do each time. I don't need to normalize. I don't need to go through and apply a denoiser one at a time. It could be part of my stack if I want, part of the sets. They're called inserts in this. They're called racks or stacks. All the same thing, but you have all this stuff pre-done. And then on this yellow track, I have a different set of tools. In this case, just a limiter. This is also another safety limiter that I put in there. But point being that it has a different set of tools on it, or effects, based on what that track is designed to do, what I want it to do. Once I figure it out, I do not want to have to figure this out on every book, on every voiceover, on every podcast, for every publisher. I have different ones for different publishers because I know what they need or what they're asking for. I'll hit their specs, and I'll never have to think about it. You can have fully mastered audio without having to think about it when you have your tools set up properly. And then, of course, the quality utilities make a difference. And then when we go to RX, you have the same level of detail happening in RX, where initially you have audio, and then you have modules, and then you can create what's known as a module chain. Okay, I'll open up that, and that's a group of processes. So this would be a rack. I can run them all with one click. I also can do a batch process where I go in here and batch process, and in this batch process example, I don't know what I have, 30 files that are sitting in there, and all 30 files can go through the same steps with just one simple click. I press process, and all 30 will be off and running. So I have 30 files going through in this example, 3 different things. But you can take and use presets that you created with the module chains. I've got a ton of them in there, and reuse them over and over and over and over again, because you create a module chain once, which has a set of attributes, and you go through and you name it. And I'm going to just take this one right here. And once you named it, I now can use it, and I don't need to recheck all these things if I'm recording in the same place. For most people, you do not need to redo these every time, whether it's a denoiser or a declicker. I have about the same amount of mouth noise, plus or minus some, on a regular basis. I do not create these each time, nor should you. So this is I'm just showing 2 products. I could have shown all this in Reaper, has the same thing. I could have shown this in Audition, where you have your racks that you can set up. Some have better template systems. This is a more extensive, it's actually cheaper, a template system, in that you have template level, track level, then you can have all the effects racks, then you can have within those all sorts of presets. It's just multi-levels. And at first, nobody knows any of them are there, but they come in handy and they save you time and effort. Now, let me look at what's going on here in terms of comments. I don't see anything in there that I really need. Yeah, hey, Nick, good to see you there. The bottom line is, when you have great tools, get yourself a good DAW, get yourself one of the more advanced ones. If you're doing audiobooks, man, you really definitely want to have one of the more advanced tools. It saves you time and effort. You can get fully mastered audio without messing with details on each chapter. And if you're going to do voiceover as well, the thing is if you have your template set up in advance, you can knock out voiceovers in much less time, because the details are preset for you, and they should be preset in your DAW. They should be preset in any post-production you do, and you have a bunch of options about the way you do it. But if I make banana bread every week, I just had some banana bread that was made here at my house here recently, not by me, but we have a recipe we follow when we do banana bread that's been around for a couple decades for us. And the only thing that changes is which bananas we're using. The ones that are, newish, the bananas that have gotten too ripe and they get to a certain point. Normally we freeze some for smoothies and things like that. But the recipe itself is tried and true, and we know we like it. And we don't go querying on Google every time. First, we is a big thing because it's not usually me. But if I wanted to do banana bread, I'd go find the recipe that we have used around here hundreds of times over the last 10, 15, 20 years, and I would just do that. I don't need to mess. It turns out great every time, and the directions are all there. Well, I don't know it. It's already written out on this little card, and we still have it manually, like on paper, because some of these recipes were handed down from parents and grandparents and things like that. But I'm not going to figure it out on my own. Now, on the other hand, I have an air fryer. I'm so advanced technically when it comes to cooking. The air fryer came from from our kids at Christmas. They got us an air fryer. We have 5 kids, and they got us an air fryer. And so now I'm not trying to figure it out. I look at the back of the package, and most packages now tell you if you're going to have fish sticks, there's directions for the air fryer. What do? I start with their directions, and then I might modify it just a little bit if they're coming out too dark or too light. I don't try to, let me guess, which I could do probably. I actually can now on some things. I could guess how much time it's going to take in the air fryer. First off, we know that the directions are all for generic air fryers, and ours is more or less than whatever they tested it on. But I do have a general idea that the fish sticks are going to be somewhere between 7 to 10 minutes. Okay? And then I adjust from there. And once I know, then I just do 7 minutes every time, 7 minutes every time, 7 minutes every time. And there's a whole bunch of buttons on ours that if you're doing reheats, there's a button for that. And I don't know what it does, but I don't care. I press reheat and it works. And there's a bunch of presets. Even on something stupid like an air fryer, it has presets, most of them these days, which is easier than having to set the temperature. Easier. It's not hard to set an air fryer up to do it. But why, if it has presets that already have it built in? Same with all your other tools. All right, let me see if there's any questions or comments over there. If you have not gone ahead and explored templates, presets, both at the track level, and I mean, there's multiple levels. It's crazy how many levels there are. Do you need to use all of them? No. Should you use some of them? Yes, absolutely. And definitely have a DAW that has presets. Not presets, templates. There is a big difference. If I just open a file, I could do that. I go through, I take this file here and I open it. One of the things that happens is this is a file. It did not clone the original file. Now, if right now I do File, Save As, and change it as a new name, maybe I clear out some stuff and I do some other stuff. I mean, that does work. But that's not the same, because I could, if I was not thinking about it, and I'm talking to you, the phone rings, my dog comes in, and I press save, I will overwrite that one. Now, I have to admit, if I did press save, this product also has some, I could restore version, and I could go back to a previous version that I had, done at another time and get it back. And there is my audio there. And so it is pretty cool that I can get back some audio. I can get back some audio from a previous time just by opening it, and I can go back previous versions, but that's just because my DAW supports restoring previous versions, even though I accidentally overwrote it. But many DAWs don't have this autosave stuff happening where it has all the versions baked in and available to me. And so even if I messed it up royally, I can usually get back. Have a DAW that supports templates. Almost all the major ones do. Make your life easier, give you some functionality, and definitely some huge wins. And then ease of use. You can see how difficult was it for me when I deleted everything here and I wanted to go back a previous version. It's 1 click, 2 click, and then I see them here. Or if I had gone over to this and I right click on this one, I can see them all here. Either way, they're available to me quickly and easily, no matter what I'm doing. So templates make your life better. Templates make your life easier. And the same concepts. Templates, presets are the things that you want to have developed in advance. They're recipes. We do it all the time in all sorts of other things we do in life where we have recipes and templates. You might as well have them here for this as well. Saves you time, saves you hassle. And I'm looking for any questions there. I don't see any questions, so that's either so clear or you don't care. I don't know. Hey, Chris, Joe. Yeah, that's cool. I'm glad you guys are here. Appreciate you being here. And if you have a question, comment, something that I should be going over here, please let me know. I'm here every week, every Tuesday at 2 o'clock Pacific, 5 o'clock Eastern. I have to do all that in my head. The Heller Show, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share this with other people. And, you know, it really helps when you throw comments in there after the show and also share it with others. All right. So I look forward to seeing you next week on VO Tech Simplified. We'll have a new topic, another thing we're discussing. We're looking for ways to make life easier from a tech point of view. And of course, join the Heller Baarns show that's every Tuesday in the mornings where we're talking about everything audiobooks. All right. Hey, Crystal. Yep. You're welcome. And we'll see you all soon. Have a great day. Bye.